Some incredible speakers tonight, so if you could just get yourself organized. Sorry, I just thought I'd just dance for a while. Thank you, Samoya. Samoya here is our incredible musician this evening. You'll get to know more about him later this evening, but that's his call to get started song. Hey, thank you for coming this evening. I know the weather was sketchy and some of you were concerned it wasn't even going to happen. I suppose some people didn't even come because of that, but thank you for being here. We have a new tagline, ITFIO. It's not just for us, though. It's for everybody, and it's United We Win. But it's not really just a tagline for us. I mean, we really are living that. 2018 is United We Win. And I guess we have these socials so that everyone can get that feeling. We also want you all to have a good time, and we know you're going to learn something. So, welcome. Question, how many of you here have been to one of our socials before? Please raise your hand. Okay, so this is an experienced crowd. How many of you in the room belong to either an indivisible group or an organization, an activist organization, Dutchess County Dems, all right, so this is a educated crowd, and I assume then that many of you in 2017 canvassed, phone banked, did something to make sure that we got some elected candidates, correct? Everyone in here? Yeah, good. And have you all had an opportunity to meet all of the candidates? Yes? Well, good. And keep meeting them, keep chatting with them, get to know them. If you don't have an opportunity to see them in person, on our website, we do have videos of them. Also on our website, if you want to see them, we have a page designated to their schedules month to month. So go on over there and check it out so you know where they'll be and when they'll be. So 2017 was an incredible year. We did a lot of organizing, we did a lot of resisting, and we really kind of got our feet underneath us. And we also had a lot of wins. I know Robin is here. Robin, we have wins. I know Christy was going to come. I didn't see her. Is Christy here? Christy Acker. Woo! So we've gotten through 2017, and now we're starting on 2018, and we're building a larger United We Win in 2018. And some of what we're going to talk about tonight is that we reviewed with all of the organizations in Dutchess County what we felt worked in 2017 and what we thought didn't work in 2017. And even though ITFIO is the host of this evening, I want everyone here to know that there's not an organization in this county that we do not consider to be full partners in everything we do, and we hope we help them as much as they help us. So it's not a branding thing, it's an activism thing. We're feeling very ambitious for 2018, and yet we're also very focused. So I don't think any of our expectations are too high, but all of that will depend on all of us. So once again, United We Win. I know I'm going to say it a lot tonight, but I just want it in everyone's brain. We have two large initiatives happening in 2018, which we're going to talk about very quickly tonight because of our guest speakers are so talented. We want to move on. But one of those initiatives is called Local Mobilization Network, otherwise known as LMN. How many people in this room have already been to a meeting or discussed LMN with a fellow activist? Good, all right, so they get together, they've been talking, they've been learning from each other, and we're really building a strong base, and I hope all of you will learn more about it tonight, starting with Peter. Peter, Is Peter here? Come on up, quick shake. Peter, quick. Peter is a steering committee member with Indivisible, The Fight Is On, otherwise known as ITFIO, from here on forward. And he is a fabulous person, and we appreciate everything he does. And he's going to tell you a little bit in a very short time. There's much more to it, but in a short time he's going to tell you about LMN.
Okay. Thank you very much, Melanie. Again, my name is Peter Cruikshank. I'm the chair of the I'm the chair of the Dutchess County Local Mobilization Network. Thank you for the name, Gully. The singular focus of our group is to support all the Democratic Party candidates on the ballot in Dutchess County by recruiting right up to the mouth, right up to the mouth. So again, our singular purpose is to support all the Democratic Party candidates on the ballot in Dutchess County by recruiting, training, organizing volunteers in 2018 and beyond. So it's not a single campaign or candidate focus. We're trying to build an organization for the future. We're working hand in hand with Elisa Sumner, the Dutchess County Democratic Committee, the local, town, city Dem committees, and all the indivisible groups across Dutchess County in this effort. The key organizing principle we have is we want to build this around the towns. We think that it's very important that volunteers are most effective when talking to voters when they are talking to their neighbors, right? So our emphasis right now is on recruiting town leads. We've got about half the towns in Dutchess. Already we have folks raising a hand to be town leads. Again, working with the local Dem committees. And what we want those town leads to do is help us recruit, organize other leaders in their town, who in turn will help guide, train, and motivate the local neighborhood canvassers. Our central group, so a number of us are here today, is going to work with the town leads and volunteers to develop training materials, effective communications, and tools to share across all the volunteer groups in Dutchess County. So we want to leverage all those best practices. I think we're off to a great start getting organized, but we're just beginning. We need your support, right? It's the support of everyone in your network to be successful. So we have a table over here with some flyers. I really encourage every one of you to stop by, pick one up on your way out. And it has the names of all our LMN working group members on it. You can contact any one of us to learn more about it. And we look forward to working with all of you in 2018 and beyond. Remember, united we win. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. All right, and then the other subject, the project that we have, you want me to do something. Oh, wait here. Sorry, that noise, you're just going to have to live with it. The other project that we have going is our video production team. I'm just going to be very quick about this, but if anybody is interested in learning more about it or helping us with it, we do have a sign-up sheet where we can call you later. But we're working on 3 video productions right now. One of them is a longer version. We'll do 1 or 2 of them during the 2018 election, and it will be focused on FASO's weaknesses. And I want to say there's a couple of people in the room today who are very shy and humble, who will not allow me to say their names, but we've had a research team working on this with us for the last couple of months that have done an incredible job. So when those videos are out, we'll make sure you know about them, and the key will be to distribute them. And then another project that we started, oh, thank you. But afterwards, if we can blow it up again, you can have selfies taken. So, don't be disappointed. The selfie opportunity is still there. So the second video production that we have is called Ladies with Libation. And we're going to show you our first sample. We kind of put it together. It was very spontaneous. They will probably get better technically, but the women who did it were so wonderful, and I enjoyed working with them so much. So we're going to show you a quick video of our first Women with Libation. This one has Elise Sumner in it, and it has Yvette Rogers in it. So I know I'm not supposed to actually say who they are. We're hoping you don't notice with the filter, but they were fabulous. So let's watch that first, and then we'll go from there. Hold it. I got it.
Fun with it, and you'll help your candidate get on the ballot.
But wait, can anybody petition for any candidate? How's that work?
Okay, help your candidate.
Sorry. There we go. I like it's like a movie.
Hello, everybody. Here I go already. And welcome to the first in an occasional series, Ladies with Libations. They made us take so many takes already that I'm probably going to be slurring my words. Please forgive me.
So tonight we're talking about
Petitions. What is a petition, you ask? A petition is the document that gets your favorite candidate on the ballot. Without a petition, the candidate doesn't get on the ballot.
So how do activists help with petitioning?
Okay, if you have a favorite candidate, you reach out to that candidate and you tell them you want to volunteer to get signatures for them on their petitions. They'll supply the paperwork, they'll supply the list of people who are going to sign the petitions, they'll tell you everything you need, they'll train you, you'll have fun with it, and you'll help your candidate get on the ballot.
But wait, can anybody petition for any candidate? How's that work?
Okay, you have to be a member of the party.
Oh.
So, in other words, if you're carrying petitions to get your candidate on the Democratic line, then you have to be a Democrat, and the people signing that petition have to be Democrats.
I see.
Wait, I need another drink. Go ahead.
Okay. So what about the petition? Can you sign as many petitions as you want for as many candidates? How do you decide?
You could sign one petition for each candidate in each different area. So one for Congress, one for Senate, but you can only sign one for a congressman, one for a woman,
Yeah,
one
don't forget that.
one for a state senator, whatever.
Okay, so how do they get these petitions in their hands? How do they help? How do they find out who they want the petitions from?
Well, like I said, you go to your candidate. If you don't know who your candidate of choice is yet, but you really are an activist and want to get involved, then go to the website www.duchessdems.com. It lists the town chairs, it has links to the candidates, and it has links to all the wonderful indivisible groups. And you can go and you can volunteer and you can start to get involved and get immersed and learn how to do it. And then when you realize who your candidate is, you just go.
That's great. So I also heard that Hudson Valley Strong is hosting a number of forums where you can see these candidates and speak to them and submit your own questions.
Who?
Hudson Valley Strong.
Sorry guys, just teasing her.
Indivisible The Fight Is On also has videos on their website where you can see the congressional New York 19 candidates speak, so you can learn more about them there. Any other suggestions?
Get involved. Volunteer. Help us. And drink lots of wine.
So what our goal is to put one of these out a week on all our different social media and websites and all that stuff, and it'll always teach you something, and it'll also be fun. So these are the type of topics that most people don't want to actually watch a video on. Hopefully you'll get a giggle and you'll do it. I was thinking that maybe Christy and Robin could do one called Winning 101. And they can teach us how to win. But if you have any topics that you want to learn more about and you want to utilize this as an opportunity to do that, just shoot me a note and we'll make sure it gets done. And then our third video, real quick, we were hoping to have a sample tonight, but it didn't quite work out. But it's going to be also short clips, only everyone will be involved with it. We're going to ask everyone to pick a bill that FASO voted for that affects you personally. And we're gonna have a bit of a template on, plain walls, dark clothes, just so that there's some consistency there. Once we have a video done that tells you more about this, we will put it up on our website. But this is all stuff that you will be engaged with. We want to hear your stories. We want to know how his votes would affect your lives. And this is how we're going to be able to point out to the NOPs and to the people that aren't necessarily in our bubble how it affects their lives as well, and personal stories. So those are the three video production things we've got. At this point, I'm going to just say that we have recently gotten an Act Blue account. Come on, a little applause. I feel like we're adults now. So we will be raising money. Anytime you want to give donations, a lot of that donation will go to help us distribute these videos, because though we're happy to make them for free, and we have professionals that will help us make them for free, we still need to distribute them. And there's a sign-up clipboard over there on that if you want to get engaged with our video production team. We have a hoot, so. Okay. So just some of the things that happened this week is Jared Kushner was downgraded, Hope Hicks admitted lying was normal and then quit. The indictments are coming in fast and furious. Russia is showing its muscle. Trump is freaking out the GOP with his charade on gun control, although that's already old news. I mean, it's hard to keep up. And he's dipping his toe into trade wars. And I didn't even watch the news today because I was too busy, so I don't know what else he did. But I'm sure that he did something else today. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I know it's really hard for all of us to keep up. But it's really important for us to keep up. So we are trying to help, facilitate, make it easy, do everything we can so that in your own busy schedule, all you have to do is dip in to get it. We have a website, and on our website, we have a blog. And I don't know, how many people are here have had the privilege to read one of our blogs? JT is our author to our blogs. If you haven't had an opportunity to read one of his posts, just treat yourself, because he's such a lovely writer, and I'm so proud every morning when I wake up and I read his blog that he works with us. So, start your day in a really nice way. I'm telling you, it's good. But the other thing we have on the website is the candidate schedules. We have the team contacts. If every organization in Dutchess County is on that website, it's not just about ITFIO. So if you want to get connected to anybody, go there. We also have our social media and Facebook and Twitter. We have a YouTube channel. And if just 20 of you subscribe to it, we could get a custom URL. So if everyone in this room right now, well, don't do it right now. But before you leave, subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is on those cute little cards. We could do a custom URL. So do that for me, will you? I want a custom URL. And then we also put out an e-blast once a week, which has our national aspect, because after all, we are an indivisible group, which means that though as much as we realize getting our candidates elected is our primary focus, every week something is going on in DC, and if we don't pick up the phone and call FASO or our senators, we are missing an opportunity to help change things. So if you're not getting our e-blasts, I try and put them out only once a week. It would be really nice if you sign up for it. Once again, it's on that cool card there that our graphic designer Megan designed for us. She's such a talent. So that's kind of it, I think. I've already messed up my cards. Oh, I know. I would like to acknowledge the fact that over here we have Moms Demand Action is here this evening, and they have. Everyone knows Rima. Rima was with the Moms Demand Action full time before before Trump was elected, and she had to sort of split her time. But now Yvette has taken over as chair. Congratulations, Yvette, for Hudson Valley Strong, and Rima's back full time with Moms Demand Action. Please go over there. There are actions taking place in our area. This is really important that we get engaged, and you can sign up over there. Also, Gina, what?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm also with Moms Demand. I'm the communications lead for Moms Demand.
Okay, then. Yeah. And I'm glad you did. I really am. Gina Klein is here. Gina has some material over there specifically for environmental action, which of course, since we have Judith Enck here this evening, is really appropriate so you can understand. After you hear her speak, you will want to go over there and sign up with Gina's with DCPAA with her action. Seriously, go do that. I guess that's about it. Oh, March 9th. This whole thing here with the is prior to a March 9th action. So over there is some more material on that, and if you want to keep in the loop about it, you can just sign up and we'll let you know details about it. Plus it's on the Facebook page. I mean, it's all over the place. All you have to do is look or ask and we'll tell you more about it. And of course, LMN tables over there. It is hard to pin Faso down on his stand with the environment because there's been so few votes on the environment, which in itself probably says something about this administration and Congress. But one of his talking points is that his endless environmental reviews stymie business development. So the man obviously feels that business is more important than our environment. So that's one more reason for us to replace him. And we have some incredible candidates running, so let's just get united and do this. Judith is going to talk about Trump assault on the environment. Every single one of you has a piece of paper of the agenda today. Her full bio is in there. So I don't want to waste another second. I want to have the time spent with her speaking, not me. So read her bio, get to know her, and Judith, do I need to do something with the mic?
She's going to hold it.
Oh, you're going to hold it.
Thanks, Melanie. Hi, everyone. It's really great to be here. Great to see all of you. Thank you to all the candidates that are running. Thank you for getting in the arena, and thank your spouses and your family who never see you. I'm Judith Enck. I served as the regional administrator in the Obama administration for EPA Region 2, which I had the best region in the country. It was New York, New Jersey, 8 Indian nations in New York, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. I was the longest serving Region 2 administrator. My lawyer was Preet Bahara. And I can tell you, I never flew first class. I never bought office furniture. I never had a meeting in my office and then asked for a multi-million-dollar loan. I never told a white lie. I never was accused of abusing my spouse. All I did was work. We worked hard in the Obama administration, and I'm so grateful that all of you are here and working hard to make sure a lot of those policies are being protected. When you hear the president speak, he'll talk a lot about his first accomplishment is rolling back regulations. Please change. And I want to, you can leave that. And I want to point out that when you hear regulation, what you should really think of is protections, environmental protections. And a quick story, when I was serving as regional administrator, I was in Washington for a meeting. I was taking the train back to New York City, rifling through my emails. When you work in a federal agency, you get a lot of emails. And I was thinking of getting my favorite meal on Amtrak, which was M&Ms and Pepsi. Do not judge me. And the train was going through a blizzard, kind of like yesterday, and I got a call from another regional administrator who told me about a situation in the U.S. Virgin Islands, which just made me stop and listen. My colleague told me that there was a family of 4 from Delaware on vacation in St. John. They were at this luxury condo in the Virgin Islands. And I was told that this was a mom, a dad, and 2 teenage boys. And I was told that one of the boys was severely injured because he was exposed to pesticides. And this one boy was in a coma in the local hospital. And the only thing my colleague knew is that he was exposed to a toxic pesticide called methyl bromide. And I said, well, how is that possible? I know that EPA banned methyl bromide for residential use, many, many years ago. So I couldn't, the calls were dropping. I got to Penn Station. I raced to my office with my colleague. We spent all Friday night working the phones, trying to find out what happened. And here's what we learned. So this family of 4 is staying in a condo on the 2nd floor. On the first floor, the pesticide chain Terminex applied methyl bromide. This is a neurotoxin, so it's designed to damage the nervous system of bugs, and when you're exposed, it does the same for people. It comes in a canister. Next slide, please. It's a fumigant, and so when that canister has the pesticides applied, the pesticide rose to the second floor, even though it was applied on the first floor. So the family was getting ill. They thought they had food poisoning. As the evening went on, they eventually called 911. They were brought to the hospital by boat over to St. Thomas. I was able to find a medical doctor who could quickly help them with the diagnosis. And remember, when I first got the call, I was told one teenager was in a coma. That was incorrect. 2 teenagers were in a coma along with their father. So I was able to quickly get the EPA emergency response staff from Puerto Rico over to the Virgin Islands. He kept feeding me information from the hospital. EPA opened a criminal complaint, a civil complaint, and 6 weeks after the incident, we were still finding methyl bromide in the condo. The mom improved. The dad and the 2 boys were still in a coma. They were eventually transferred to hospitals in Philadelphia. The mom is a dentist. Her symptom was that her hands trembled. The father and the 2 boys have permanent neurological damage. They're in wheelchairs, they can't walk, they can't speak, they can't move on their own, but they're fully aware of what is going on around them. They will never recover. So this family is broken because of one illegal pesticide application at one time. We worked real hard on an enforcement case. We fined Terminex $10 million, which was one of the largest pesticide penalties in the country, but it just feels so inadequate knowing how this family is struggling. They hired a private lawyer who thankfully got them lots of resources to take care of their medical needs. We don't know the details because, like Harvey Weinstein, they signed a non-disclosure agreement, so they can't tell us the details. But I'm sure no amount of money in the world makes up for this devastation. So there are a lot of pesticide exposures every day. Most of them are unreported. A lot of them involve farm workers. And it's because of these very situations that the Environmental Protection Agency was established in the first place. Who do you think established the EPA? Nixon. Next slide. So, it was 48 years ago. There was a long bipartisan tradition on environmental protection. Strong pesticide regulations got better over the years. But the story I just told, is so dreadful because the EPA is now under attack like never before. Just yesterday, President Trump nominated the top EPA staff person who will be in charge of toxics issues. The gentleman's name is Peter Wright, and he currently works for Dow Chemical. And before that, Monsanto. Next slide. So it's really common for EPA to get attacked by the oil and gas industry, from chemical companies, but this is the guy who heads up the agency, Scott Pruitt. He is pushing EPA in the wrong direction, and more about him later. So I can't blame all of the environmental problems on this administration. I think every administration could have been stronger, but these guys are just really making matters worse. We're leaving future generations with contaminated drinking water, with species extinction, with plastics in the ocean and toxins in the air, and consequently, toxins in our bodies. Today, there are about 46,000 pieces of plastic in every square mile of water in the ocean. So what happens is a plastic water bottle or a piece of styrofoam gets littered, it gets into the storm system, it's runs out into the ocean. Ocean currents serve like paper cutters, almost paper shredders, and all those little pieces of plastic are building up in our marine environment. And for what? So you can have a plastic water bottle for 7 minutes, or a really bad sandwich in polystyrene that you gobble down in 10 minutes. So I think focusing on getting rid of single-use plastics is really important, and that can happen at the local level if it's not going to happen at the state and federal level. But fundamentally, our nation has a problem with environmental sustainability. The United States is 4% of the world's population, but we consume 30% of the world's natural resources. We use 20% of the world's energy, and we create 40% of the world's waste. So that's the dilemma in a nutshell. By the way, the United States is 4% of the world's population and owns 42% of the world's guns. So stop by at this table, please. So we've never had a president, next slide, so anti and aggressively environmental, against the environment. Next slide. Back to Scott Pruitt, the guy in the middle. He's only been the head of the EPA for a little over a year, appointed by Trump. Previously, he served as the Attorney General in Oklahoma. He sued EPA 14 times when he was the Oklahoma Attorney General. He I can't even say he's a climate denier. He's kind of even beyond that. When pressed, he recently acknowledged that the Earth indeed is warming, but it was not necessarily a bad thing. For students that are here, he's removed almost all of the climate change information from the EPA website. He's also not a very good steward of tax dollars. You may have read that he always flies first class. So I checked with the previous EPA administrator, Gina McCarthy, who's wonderful, and asked if she ever flew first class. The answer was no. And I was so curious about why he was always, I don't take lightly, security concerns, but like, what's going on with Scott Pruitt that he always has to fly first class? Well, apparently he's had unpleasant conversations in the airport. And I just want to urge all of you, if you see him in an airport, be polite, but tell him what you think of his environmental record, and if any of you fly first class, up your game. You need to talk to him, and I think what he doesn't realize is that this is the rest of his life. If anyone recognizes him in a public spot, it's not like we're going to be, throwing rose petals at him. In 1 year, he's done so much damage. He's there to gut the EPA. This is all about, he is just defending special interests. He's made major staff cuts. His senior staff are from the oil and gas industry, from the chemical industry. He's very secretive. He spent $15,000 installing like a phone booth inside of his office. And for the very first time, he has 24/7 security, which all the other EPA administrators always had like 1 or 2 security staff with him. I think his security folks are up to 8. And so when he sleeps at night, someone is outside his door guarding it and at the cost of tax dollars. So I talk about the EPA because, we're very involved in following what's happening in the White House and Javanka and the whole psychodrama. But we have to look at what's happening in the federal agencies, not just EPA, State Department, health, education. That is where the lasting damage is being done. So in Scott Pruitt's first year, he has repealed 20 major environmental regulations, and he's in the process of repealing another 47. There's been a dramatic reduction in enforcement. A recent report I was involved with documented that enforcement of our environmental laws is down by almost half. And I told you about the tragic situation with the pesticide exposure in the US Virgin Islands. Contrast that with a pesticide case that the EPA just settled in Hawaii, where farm workers were exposed to pesticides in 2016. They were exposed to chlorpyrifos by a GMO company, Syngenta. The Obama administration was still in office. The workers were sent to the hospital. EPA filed a legal complaint and announced that we could seek $4.8 million in fines and penalties. Well, just last month, Scott Pruitt settled that case for $150,000, a far cry from the $4.8 million. So that is just pennies on the dollar. Next slide. So, what are we going to do? And the EPA workforce is way down. Next slide. I do hear from former colleagues. I can always tell, there are ethics restrictions. I can't talk to them about policy, which is fine because I don't want to talk to them about their policy, but I can still be friends with them. And I can always tell when something is happening because in one day sometimes I'll get a flurry of calls or emails asking if people could list me as a reference. and I'm thinking, oh no, something bad is about to come down. So the firewall on all of this is Congress. So where is Congress? Next slide. John Faso, not great. Next slide. His overall environmental score that just came out last week is 34%. It's also his lifetime score from the League of Conservation Voters. And we know that, as Melanie said, a lot of bills don't come to the floor in Congress. But when the environment is under assault, we need Congress to exercise their oversight authority and fully understand what these rollbacks mean in their districts. And Congressmember Faso definitely is not doing that. He is part of a climate change caucus, which never does anything. Whenever he is asked about what he's doing to reduce climate change, he says he's on this climate change caucus. They really have done nothing. He's also part of the Problem Solvers Caucus, which I just find to be the most annoying name because they're not solving any problems. So there's no shortage of environmental problems. Water pollution, air pollution is crossing state lines. We hear a lot that Scott Pruitt wants to just leave everything to the states. Well, even in a progressive state like New York, that's not always a good idea. When I was at the EPA, I blew the whistle on the fact that people in Hoosick Falls were drinking contaminated water. And that was an amazing situation. It was a very toxic chemical, PFOA, which was in the Hoosick Falls public water supply. And the New York State Health Department knew for over a year that people were drinking contaminated water and didn't tell anyone. And then when I found out, they strongly discouraged me from saying anything public. So there was, a really fun behind the scenes back and forth. But it wasn't even close. As a regulator, of course, I had to inform people that they were drinking toxic water. And then things improved a bit. But that's in New York. That's not Louisiana. That's not Texas. So real quick on climate change. I see the looks on all your faces. I want to tell you, I'm just no fun to hang around with. Both my husband and I are working on climate change issues, and we're just like Mr. and Mrs. Gloom. I get up in the morning, he tells me about the latest report on sea level rise and melting ice caps, and people see us at parties and they walk away. I don't know how to talk to children about climate change. It's a little grim, but we don't have time to waste. 2016 was the hottest year on record. Next slide. 2017, the second hottest year, and 16 of the 17 warmest years on records have all occurred since 2001. So I don't know what that is, but I'm lost on the slides. You can stop. Yeah, keep going. I'm terrible with slides. So go back to the other one though. So that's climate change. That's not good. The air pollution puts a blanket over the earth, so the sunlight gets trapped at the surface. It results not only in record heat, but also extreme weather. And I've done a lot of work on the hurricane in the West Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. And what you need to understand about climate change and hurricanes, and especially if any of you lived through Sandy and Irene, climate change doesn't cause hurricanes, but it makes them much more intense. So the ocean water or the Caribbean water is warmer, and that's like rocket fuel, and it can turn a Category 3 hurricane into a Category 5 hurricane. So after Maria hit in the Virgin Islands, the governor there, Kenneth Mapp, called me and asked if I could come down and help. And he asked if I could stay for 3 months. I said no, but I could stay for 3 weeks. And I've been working on it almost full time since October. And you know, the tragedy in the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico is that the federal response has just been completely inadequate. There are major areas in Puerto Rico where electricity is not restored. So some of you lost power yesterday. Imagine not having power for 5 months. And when I was in the Virgin Islands, there was no electricity, no computer access, no cell phone access. So I was embedded with 4 different territorial agencies, and it was really hard to get work done without the computer and the phone. And you've heard some of the media narratives about the hurricanes, but a quick thing I want to tell you is how these disasters are really ripping apart the fabric of communities and families. So what was very common in the Virgin Islands is the dad would stay behind to repair the home and look for work or stay in his job, and the mom and the kids moved away. They moved to Atlanta or Florida or New York, and I talked to a whole bunch of them, and I said, well, and this was in October, I said, well, hopefully, you know, this won't be long, and they're like, oh no, the kids are gonna be gone till June, and well, can you go see them Christmas time? No, we don't have money for a plane ticket. So it is really ripping families apart, and there's been a huge migration to New York and Chicago and Florida, and I think this is our first example of climate refugees in the United States. What's really troubling is that carbon pollution emitted today, so from a tailpipe of a truck or a car or a fossil fuel smokestack, what's emitted today lasts in the atmosphere for decades. So pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord is, I think, there's a list here, but I think it's the single worst thing that the Trump administration has done. And we're not just having the federal government sit on the sidelines. They've promoted oil and gas drilling in the ocean, on public lands. They've rolled back all the EPA regulations. So there's a lot we can do at the state and local level and in the private sector, but quite honestly, this administration's record on climate change is going to be with us for a very, very long time. So on that happy note, happy to take a couple questions. I think we're running short on time. Sir?
Yes. Is there anything that can be done on the state level to try to make sure that they're not doing offshore drilling specifically?
Yeah, that's a great question. So is there anything the state can do to stop offshore oil and gas drilling? Yes. And I went to the Department of Interior Bizarro public meeting in Albany a few weeks ago, and I learned a lot, because a lot of the Interior staff there personally don't like what's going on. So I went, pss, 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 pss. Where in state authority can we block this? And the New York State Department of State has to sign off on whether the drilling is consistent with the state coastal policies. And if it's not, the state can block the drilling. Because remember, there's the drilling, and then also they have to build the pipelines to get it from offshore to the land. So contacting the Cuomo administration and telling them that you want them to exercise their authority through the Department of State, the State Department of State, would be terrific.
What do you think the most effective pressure point
So two things. One is lawsuits are crucial. So thank Attorney General Eric Schneiderman for suing the Trump administration 100 times, literally. And support groups that are good lawyers, like Earth Justice and Natural Resources Defense Council. And then the other thing is to work like you've never worked before to get 100% renewable energy. And we need big solar farms, we need big wind. I know some people have concerns with solar and wind. I say suck it up. We have to site really large solar, really large wind, geothermal, hydro, fuel cells, and of course energy efficiency. And the nice thing is you can work on that locally. You can get a school, you could get your faith community, you could get your business to make those clean energy investments. And that is happening. China and India are so far ahead on this issue. You know, President Trump did impose, his first tariffs were on washing machines and solar panels.
Yeah.
And the solar panel tariff is really going to be a setback in solar. One more question?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Sir?
So when we are fortunate enough to get rid of the Trump administration, hopefully have a progressive administration in place, how long do you think it will take to recover the damage that's been done to the EPA?
So how do we put Humpty Dumpty back together again? I mean, it'll take years and years. I mean, at least 10 years, because you have to go back and look at how do you reconstitute all, you know, just the 20 regulations or protections that have been unraveled in the first year. Oh, and by the way, I think it's going to get worse. This is just starting. So, you know, and a lot of the experienced people at EPA have left. So they're going to have to be recruited to come back. And that's not to say that there isn't opportunity to improve at the EPA. When I was there, I did lose my mind a few times. It could be more efficient. It could be more forward-leaning on things, focusing on pollution prevention. But, you know, my general guess is at least 10 years. If Congress gives enough money to have talented staff to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. One more?
Do you think it's worth putting pressure on Cuomo to agree to adhere to the Paris climate treaty like California did with Governor Gray Davis?
I think he's done that. So, you know, just a word about Governor Cuomo. Some of his environmental and climate change policies are quite good, and some are not. So here's a surprise. Guess how, if you take away large hydro, which was built by Robert Moses in Western New York, like in the 50s, take that piece out of the equation. Guess how much renewable energy we have in New York from solar and wind? Take a guess. Oh, you're all so cynical. 4%. And, you know, that is terrible, because if you care about jobs, the jobs are in clean energy. Also, a really important local issue is when I was an organizer with New York Public Interest Research Group years ago, one thing I worked on was getting the Albany Answers garbage incinerator shut down. Low-income minority community in Arbor Hill, you know, really did tremendous damage, lead-poisoned families, etc. So it now burns gas, as it has for a long time. The governor put $80 million in last year's state budget to build a gas microturbine at that facility with fracked gas from Pennsylvania. Now, he also has come out in favor of divestment, which is fantastic, you know, making sure our state pension funds are not in fossil fuel industry. But I don't understand how you can publicly support divestment and then in downtown Albany support spending $80 million to use frack gas to heat and cool the Capitol building and the Empire State Plaza when we know that geothermal and solar would work in that setting. So I'll just say the record is inconsistent. So it's a good thing to be raising with the governor and his staff. But many are wonderful. They really get the climate change issue, but we're just not making the progress that we need to make. One more? I keep saying that, really, one more.
I just wanted to say, you mentioned that solar and wind is a great way that you can act locally. I wanted to make sure everyone in this room was aware that town of Washington, where we are right now, recently enacted a 6-month moratorium on solar development. Just as an example to back up what you were saying, talk to the town board, talk to the planning board. It's not all about Congress. Make sure you're involved locally in this stuff.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you know, I am so surprised there are 90 of those moratorium across New York State. So I've put that on my to-do list of something to work on, and I don't think it's just happening organically. This is coming from somewhere, so definitely talk to your town supervisor. Thanks, everyone. Take care.